Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Aha Moment. I'm your host, Amanda Kaczurka, here with my co-host, Elizabeth Sapola from Vision Associates. And we are incredibly excited to be joined today for an episode all about training and development, one of our favorite topics. And we have an incredible guest here with us today. We're so excited to welcome Kassy LaBorie. She is a connection strategist, and she's going to talk all things training and development with us. Welcome, Kassy. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with both of you.
So, Kassy, before we jump into the actual content of what we want to talk through today, tell us a little bit about yourself. You have a super interesting journey and working on your own organization, your own company right now. So tell us a little bit about that.
And how is it that you became a connection expert?
Yes.
Well, it all began with, I'm going to say it began with a RuPaul billboard.
Love it.
Yeah. I used to live in San Francisco. I now live in upstate New York. And I was driving down the 101 and I saw a big sign featuring RuPaul, and it was for WebEx way back in the late 90s. And the sign said, "We've got to start meeting like this." WebEx.com. And I was like, we do. What do we do? And at the time I was a Microsoft trainer, and I ended up getting a job at WebEx in the late 90s as a product trainer. And it didn't take long for people to say, we get where to click, but how did you make us want to connect with you and with other people? We get technically how to connect, but how did you make it so we wanted to connect with each other as people beyond the screen?
Yeah, right.
I'd say that seed was planted right there. It's been quite a journey since then, around 25-ish years.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I was helping people to use technology, but for me, it was always about helping people to use technology so that they could connect, so that they could learn, so that they could sell, so that they could meet, so that they could present, fill in the dots there. And it's been an interesting journey because, you have to learn the tech first. And a lot of people think it is the tech, but it's actually not. I always say tech is cool, but people are cooler.
Right. Yes. I like that too. I like that too.
I think I've always been trying to get the tech out of the way so we could get to the people, because it's what we do with it that becomes extraordinary.
So out of curiosity, from your early days, when you were being asked those questions of, okay, we get where to click, but how do we connect with other people? I'm just curious, is that something, that skill, that ability, something that just was innate to you, or did you learn it somewhere else? I mean, how did you develop the skill set you have that you now teach others about?
Yeah, I think it's such a cool question, because I've asked myself the same question, why am I like I am? Who am I? Barbie, right? Yes. What was I made for?
Yes. Great Billie Eilish song.
But I remember when I first walked into that first day at WebEx, and the trainers that were there, they had all these slides with screenshots, and not to down it, okay?
Sure.
But they had slides with screenshots of this is the chat and what it looks like, and they're walking through the chat, and I'm like, excuse me, pardon me, why don't we just use the chat? I have an idea. And so for me, it was always the most logical thing for me was use it, let them jump in, and then explain what happened.
Right.
I guess, sort of one of those hands-on learner types to begin with.
Sure.
And I have a background in theater and performance anyway, so I'm always seeking the story and the people and wanting you to lean in that way and experience it. And the whole sit down, listen while I tell you doesn't usually work in corporate learning too well. It might work in a storytelling thing if you're already famous and we already love you because we know your songs or your whatevers. We will sit down and listen to you, but most of us are not that. And so I think it started with, why don't you just? And then, I started looking at, well, what's happening here? Why do we default to training like that? Which I understand, upon further research, people do well when they're told what's happening and what's to come and what to expect. And so
Right.
now go do it. And so we want to control it because it's overwhelming.
Mhm.
You know, and I've had to find that balance throughout my career because I am definitely the trainer that's like, hey, where are you from? Chat. And they're like, what is it? You know, in the beginning. And I'm like, you'll figure it out as soon as you dive in.
Mhm.
I'm that trainer, which doesn't work for everybody. And I had to learn that, you know.
Right.
So I think, you know, it brings some of it to the table. And then I've researched and found different ways to engage in different ways. But it all comes back to people do the best when it's what they need it to be for them, and they get a chance to try it within a context that makes sense for them in that moment.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's something
Solving a
else.
problem or whatever it may be. Mhm.
There's something else you didn't say, but there's definitely an undercurrent of inference to it, and I'm just curious for you to react to it. And here's what I'm hearing within what you said. And that is another thing that you seem to have created in these environments, these learning environments, is an opportunity where the learning participants feel comfortable and safe trying something. And we all know the first time or two or three that you try something, you're not going to likely do it right or well. So you make it a comfortable and safe environment in which to experiment and fail, right? Can you just maybe
sure.
speak to how that element plays into, what our listeners might be curious about when they're scratching their heads, trying to figure out how to train their adult learners who work within their organizations?
Yeah, for sure. I love this question too, because, you know, a lot of times we're teaching people new tech. We're using new tech, new-ish or unfamiliar tech to teach new process or whatever it may be. That's why we go to training. It's new, different, needs to
Right.
change. And people are pretty uncomfortable about all that stuff. And especially grown-ups, we don't want to get it wrong, be embarrassed in front of other people, look bad, look like we don't deserve to do the job we do, you know. And so if we go back to what I said, tech is cool, people are cooler. People are where we have to start. And so anytime I open any training, whether it is in person or online, I'm going to be like, how are you? What's happening? What is your day like? What is happening in your work moment? You know, something that's just easy that you can't get wrong and that immediately says to you that I care that you're here and that you're spending this time. And, you know, usually my second thing after that is like, oh man, if only we didn't have to do this today. Wouldn't it be cool if we could just meet at Starbucks instead? You know,
Right.
I'm making that up, but like
Sure.
some sort of vulnerable thing about me also finding this somewhat challenging.
Right. Right.
You know, and like a thing I adopted early on when something doesn't work, specifically in, let's say, a virtual meeting, I'm like, you know what, let's just throw the computers out the window for a moment. And then we'll come back. I'm just kidding. You know, or I'll say like, why is the computer screen doing this to you?
Right.
Why did that window decide not to work for you today?
Right.
I'm angry with it, you know,
Yes.
like blaming everything but, you know, the person, which they're already blaming themselves anyway. They don't need me to pile that on.
No.
For sure. I want to go back to something you said because I think it's such a good takeaway, and I think it's something that most organizations when they train people don't think about. I think too many times the training starts with the content. What do I need this person to learn? And you made the point about within the context of a session, you know, starting with the focus on the people, starting the planning for the training on the people. That's something I'd love to hear you speak to that, because I know that's something that's not, it doesn't come naturally
to a
lot
of people that are providing these trainings to different organizations.
It's very interesting how it doesn't come naturally to people. We get really focused on, it's got to be the content. We need to be serious. I think we need to be real serious.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and professional. And I love this idea like that. I don't think that leaders need more serious training. I think that we need to switch the word serious to the word effective.
Yes.
We need more effective training. And if we start to look at connecting with people, I think it requires us to be a bit creative on how we might do that, because people are unpredictable and we're all different. And I think we need to be creative, and people think that creativity is not serious.
Oh, yes. I would
Yes,
agree. A lot of
agree.
people, especially people who I'm thinking of clients we work with who might be in more of a technical type of industry. It's like they're afraid to have fun sometimes. And
Yeah.
they feel like there's an
Yeah.
inference of them not taking their job seriously or not working hard.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And like I think we have serious and we have being like not creative because creative is silly.
Yes.
And I think that creativity is the opposite of indifference. I
Oh,
think people
yes.
who lean into being creative
Mhm.
are thinking very deeply about how to make it work for who's in front of them.
Mhm.
And it requires you to think of outside of your own ideas.
Mhm.
You know, for me, I'm like, dive in, do it, figure it out. But, you know, I had to recognize that that's not how everyone's going to respond. And so it requires me to get creative on, well, what would I do if that was the worst thing in the world that someone would ask me to do? You know,
Right.
how would I go about it? I got to do something different because I'm interested in being effective. And I think that, you know, we can tend to put creativity into the box of art. That it is only art or silly or performance, where creativity is when you are thinking differently, thinking outside of what would be the standard way to go, you know?
And what must exist? What are some of the tenets of, of things that you would like trainers and leaders to consider as far as what must exist in order for someone to become open and willing to think differently?
Yeah, I think we need confidence. And I think confidence comes from support. You know, and relationships, you know, because if I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble,
Right.
then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to break the rules. I mean, maybe I'm not. I am, but
Most other people. Normal people. No,
Most
I'm just
normal
joking.
people who like remain employed, right? Yeah,
People remain employed.
I'm kidding.
Me too. You're normal.
Yeah, but you just don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to do it wrong, and so people need they need clarity on what we're trying to do, and then they need support and confidence and belief from leadership. And it's like the best leaders that I have worked for are the ones who see me for who I am and what I bring to the table, and they're like, "Go with it, girl."
Right.
You know, let's grow that.
Right.
You know, and I think, you know, I had to come into that. It's not like I was, you know, graduated college and I'm like, okay, I'm super confident. I didn't know everything and I was afraid of everything, you know? And so, you know, that support from leadership, that I see you, you know, and I support what you're trying to do. And I'm going to provide you with guidance so you understand what our initiatives are and where we're headed and who we are as a brand and what we're trying to say and do in this world. I think
One thing I want, switching gears a little bit, I'm just thinking, Amanda, of a conversation you and I had with an organization yesterday. And the topic of conversation was, gosh, we have this group of 30 learners within our organization coming from all over. Should we wait and do an in-person training, you know, in Q1, at the end of Q1 2026, when we're all physically in the same space? Or should we do it sooner than that and do it virtual? You have trained and presented in every format imaginable. I'm just curious for your perspective on what is it that really must exist in any format? And is there one format better or worse than the other, you know, to really connect with learners?
Sort of a complicated, I wish it was an easy answer, you know, because I'm not sure that the platform is the first question. I think that the people is where we have to start. And what do the people need? You know, and are they in need of meeting one another and connecting? Is there a loneliness that's happening, or are they new and they desperately need to meet each other? We don't want to wait 6 months or 3 months.
Right.
You know, let's make online work. And then if you decide to do it virtually, then I do think the platforms need to be easy to use. You know, these platforms have become kind of complicated or locked down. We're not allowed to do anything because of compliance. It's so interesting that the ongoing battle of like, we have to be safe and compliant. So we're not going to be able to do any of the things like use the tools or open anything up because of that.
Right.
And so then that then starts to block the people side of things and the relationships that so desperately need to be built and then also maintained.
Right.
I feel like when I worked at Dale Carnegie, we were a brand new team that was established at the corporate level to lead the digital initiatives called Dale Carnegie Digital. And it was completely brand new. It didn't exist. All the franchises all over the world were operating as businesses in person.
Sure.
And a lot of what we were doing was figuring out how we can get people to just first off lean in and understand what we were even trying to do, and get past all of the tech and the things we need to click on, because the initial thought is the tech and the click, and it's such a big barrier.
Right.
And if you can't get past that, which is what takes me back to it needing to be easy to use, if you can't get past that, then you can't get to the thing which is actually number one, which is the relationships and the people and being able to see each other easily, and have it not have a tech problem, be able to get on the audio. Like the worst thing in the world when it comes to working remotely or in this tech-driven world is trying to make the tech work from the audio perspective and the video perspective, those two most basic of things.
Yes.
Because that's not a single thing that we think about. When I walk into an office, I'm more concerned about, did I park in the right place and am I using the right door to go through? But I'm not figuring out, like, once I go through the door, what to do anymore.
Right. It's natural.
It's natural. And I have recognized everybody has a different level of what that feels like and what natural feels like to them, right? Based on who they are and their own experiences. But you know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you survive it in whatever way you have to. But online, like, we can't even, if you can't speak and you can't unmute yourself because it won't work or you don't know how, you can't even get to the relationship stuff. So we really need the tech to be so easy to use and not in the way.
Right.
And the tech isn't there yet like that. I mean, it's gotten way better. I can attest to it being way, way better. But, I mean, I don't work inside of a company. I work for myself. And so when I'm invited into, let's say, a Microsoft Teams meeting, 9 times out of 10, I can't really do anything other than be on the camera.
Right. Are there certain platforms you find that are more conducive than others to virtual connection and learning?
I think it's certain platform setups, because Microsoft Teams can operate differently than the default settings.
Right.
And so it's the settings of whatever platform we're using where it needs to be easy to get in and things need to work without having to become a member of IT to make them work.
Yes.
Or at least contact IT to make them work.
Yeah.
Right. And then you need people who are leading these meetings to be real people focused, but very, very strong on the tech too. They just need it. It's just where we are today. And if you're people focused, but you're not strong on the tech, then have somebody there. This idea that the producer is a luxury.
Right.
I don't agree with it being a luxury at all. It's a necessity. Yeah. If you don't know what you're doing, it's a luxury for me. I know what I'm doing in my sleep with this tech. Yes, it's a luxury for me. But it isn't for most people because they don't know how to fix the tech if it's going to break on someone. So that's like having the whole house not even be available.
Right.
Or the whole office building not be available. And it's just interesting how we see it that way. And I think we're very, I think the part of my personality that doesn't need things to be super controlled plays out really well in the work or the line of work that I have chosen to do. Because I do very often find myself going, I don't know what's going on, but I do care about you. So how are you all? Yeah, no, nothing's working, but how are you? You know what I mean? Like, I can do that and be like, fine with it. It's like another day at the improv theater,
Sure. Well, you saying that made me think of something, because one question that I was going to ask is, what is one belief about training that you feel a lot of leaders who are responsible for training should unlearn? And I have a thought, and I'd like to get your reaction to it if you're open to that.
Yeah.
And my thought is that the best trainers follow a script. The best trainers come in with everything, every minute of time accounted for. My thought, in fact, is for me personally, I intentionally try to only plan for about 70% of the time because I want to allow for human moments or having to pivot Do you know what I'm trying to say? And not being so overly rigid that you don't allow time for processing and discussion and things of that nature. I'm just curious of your reaction to that.
I would agree with you completely that we need space, but you could say though that you need your trainers to be scripted in their ability to demonstrate skill.
Okay. Yes.
I'm kind of making something up there. Okay.
Sure.
where like the trainers need to be very good at creating environments. And so they need skills of communication. They need leadership. They need conflict resolution. They need facilitation. They need presentation.
Right.
And they need their tech skills to be top. So those things can all be, if you wanted to like script them out, this is how we do this. This is our brand of facilitation. This is our brand of presenting. And the tech in and out. Yeah. Because see, what gives people the freedom and the confidence to go off script with content is that they know it in their bones.
Right. This is true.
Yeah, very much so.
So how do you get something in your bones is that you've got to go through it and learn it. And so this is, I think, where that comes from. And, some of this is theater too. Some of the best performances do not come from an improvisational place. They do come from, I've memorized it and delivered that line thousands of times and in as many different ways. Because I can now deliver it no matter what comes at me because it is part of my being.
Right.
But you don't make that part of your being by not learning it. It's the difference between memorization and learning.
Yes. Yes.
And so the facilitator or the trainer who facilitates won't have the confidence to do what you've described until they've built up their skill, which might involve a whole lot of memorization and script ahead of time.
Yeah.
They need it.
That's a great point.
And it's like you don't go from I'm a trainer today and I'm going to be engaging tomorrow.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
No, for 99.9% of the free world, I don't think that happens.
Yeah. And kind of on that note too, I was thinking about that question because I know you sent that question to me in advance. Thank you. I love it. What's one belief? What I see a lot with clients that I work with is a lot of subject matter experts who are the trainers. And they don't spend enough time helping them, realize, the subject matter expert realize that there's an art or a method or a strategy to the way that you teach people something. And then secondly, once you get that subject matter expert to realize that and to buy into it, to give them the time to develop how to do it. We kind of just say, well, just tell us the answers of what you know, and then it'll be fine, which the thing is it ends up not being fine.
Right.
And, there's a lot of different strategies and ways you can work with subject matter experts, but I just see most companies, they don't need a train the trainer for the SMEs. The SMEs can just tell us and we'll figure it out from there, So there's different ways, like even having a professional facilitator be part of that is a really great way to go, because then maybe the SMEs don't have the interest or the time, if they're not going to be training all the time anyway. So having a professional facilitator come in and be with them and manage that is one way to do it. But I do wish that leadership would recognize that a subject matter expert is not a trainer.
This is true. Yes. And not every trainer needs to be a subject matter expert.
I love that you said that too, because that when I was first becoming a trainer way back 100,000 years ago, I learned I wanted to be a trainer in college. I found it I was in theater and speech and public speaking, and then I'm like, oh, an actor who gets a job is a trainer. Excellent. I'll do that.
I want that.
I want that job. So then I'm like, I want that. And so I apply for these trainer jobs, and they'd be like, have you ever used the database before? And I'm like, what's a database?
Come again?
What? Come again? No, but I can guide a group of people through a process of learning thing. I'm sure you can just give me the login and I'll learn it,
Sure.
It was hard to get a job in the beginning. And that's what I had to get a tech job. I shouldn't say I had to. I ended up at a really cool place where I was teaching Microsoft applications. It was all tech. And then they would teach me, literally, I remember I taught front page. Do you even remember that?
Yes, I do. I do.
I don't know that I knew it even when I taught it, but I had to teach front page. It was like Wednesday night and the trainer couldn't go Thursday. Like, Kassy, can you cover front page 101? I'm like, okay. So then, I get the book and the book guide me through it. And what I was going to lean on is how do I teach a class of new content to people?
Right.
And, I'm reading through it the night before, prepping everything I can. It wasn't a great class, but it's like the truth is, after a couple of deliveries like that, I did know it, And the reason I could do that is because I had the skill of managing a group and getting them comfortable and listening to them and guiding them.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to know every single thing to be able to do that. And I think people do think trainers know everything. But yet my experience has been when someone gives me a question that I don't have the answer to, which, come on, I'm human.
Sure.
I think it's super cool. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. I get to learn a cool thing today too. So here's what we're going to do together. I'm going to find out who in the audience. There's a lot of different strategies to go that way.
Yeah.
But I think there's a belief that people will think that you have lost your credibility.
I do believe a lot of trainers or leaders who train think that.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
And I think, and that's something that we talk about a lot in, the training that we do. And we talk about when you're training leaders to be better leaders, modeling vulnerability is something that's so crucial to, get everyone else in the room on a level of comfort with, oh, this person that's leading me is now being vulnerable and sharing a side of themselves that's not perfect.
Right.
And I'm getting to see that in the moment. And we emphasize that. And I think that's something that's really, really hard for leaders to do and for learners to understand the value of until they're in the moment.
Yes, I was just going to say, because I think that it's probably more difficult for trainers or managers who are not trainers by trade, but they're just in a moment where they have to train somebody. I think it's tougher for them to realize and give themselves permission to be vulnerable than it is for the person who's learning to receive that vulnerability. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because as soon as you see the vulnerability as the person receiving it, that is the moment that you relate to them.
Yes.
Like, they are human.
You are human. You're just like
a robot.
Yeah. Now, and it is a fine line. Like, it's not to say that the trainer, the leader, the presenter, gets to know nothing, right? They would, in fact, have no credibility if that was the case, obviously. So it's a bit of a balance. But those moments where you allow the vulnerability to come through, or listen, I don't know everything, that is when the audience leans in the most.
Absolutely. And I really want to go back to something you said earlier, and I want to underline it. And that is, I would love to encourage everyone listening to this podcast who's responsible for planning training, delivering training in their organization to consider partnering a subject matter expert up with somebody who has a stronger facilitation skill set. Because I just think even you and I, we play off of each other quite a bit in that way. And it does make the learning experience so much richer for the people who are participating in it. And it's okay to do that.
It is okay to do that. And it's very interesting, actually, any kind of radio show moment. I mean, the two of you leading this is really interesting for people to listen into because you have different perspectives and different things that you hear or that you're interested in and want to lean in on. And it helps people pay attention differently. I love that so much too. The vulnerable stuff, as you were talking about it, and I was thinking how, as a trainer, for me, my whole career, it's not been hard to be vulnerable regarding the content.
Right.
Like if I'm teaching people how to use WebEx or Teams or Zoom or whatever I was doing, if it broke, it wasn't hard for me to be like, it's not working. Here's what we're going to do instead. However, fast forward to like just even 2 years ago, I've done a pivot in my own career from workshop facilitator and corporate trainer to keynote and professional speaker. And that starts to get into some more of the personal side of things about my life and my experiences and my beliefs.
Yes.
And I remember, I viscerally remember the moment that I was vulnerable about a personal topic
Mm-hmm.
the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
In public, in front of a corporate audience. I remember when that happened. It raises my heartbeat right now because it was such a different feeling, and I was actually stunned. I was nervous that I was talking about it, and I was stunned that I was so nervous to be vulnerable.
Was that moment of vulnerability something that you scripted and planned, or did it
No.
just naturally flow?
It came out. There was a question that came. It was a podcast, and it was a question, and it was a very personal question about. I think it was around imposter syndrome.
Oh, yes.
And we weren't. It wasn't a podcast about imposter syndrome. It was just a thing that came up, and it just randomly was like, "Have you ever experienced it?" And I was like, "Oh." And I talked about it for a moment, and I realized I just said that out loud to a whole bunch of people.
Right.
And it was personal, and I admitted being like nervous and weak, and that I admitted that I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Right.
It's one thing to admit that the chat's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I worked for WebEx and we're supposed to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing, but it was a whole nother thing to be like, yeah, I feel like I'm not good enough in the world.
Yes,
You know?
definitely.
I was
That
like,
doesn't normally just roll off the tongue easily.
Can we delete that? You know what I mean? But the thing that ended up happening was that, of course, people leaned in more than I'd ever experienced.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And is that when you became hooked? I'm just curious.
A little.
Is it? Okay.
A little.
I thought maybe.
I'm not going to say that I'm like, addicted to that, but I was like, oh, I didn't realize. I think that it was more like the timing was right. I've been doing what I've been doing for so long. And that's like, where are you headed next? And then that moment occurred and I'm like, whoa, is this where I'm headed next? Like,
Right.
people really responded to that in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yep.
And it's funny because then I go back and I look over like all the Brene Brown stuff that I've read about be vulnerable. Everyone loves it. And I'm like, and it is lame to do it.
Yes.
But then it's not lame once you do it and people gather around you. But I will tell you that even to this day, it is not easy for me to be like, this was hard for me. I struggled here. I think this really lame thing,
Well, here's
not easy for me.
Here's what I would say about that, because we've all participated in workshops or trainings or conferences where there's a keynote, and their vulnerability feels very performative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Very rehearsed.
Yeah.
And what's worse yet is you can go, and if you happen to love the speaker so much that you follow them on social media, and then you see a clip from a different conference and it's the same thing. Right?
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
So
you're like, wait, that wasn't special content to me?
Exactly.
That's like,
you feel wronged.
I mean, you do. That this has happened to me many times at conferences, and I'm like looking for video footage of that conference that I was at to share with somebody, and then I find it from another conference, and it was exactly the same, and I'm like, oh,
right. So
here's the thing, though, you guys. The reality is, if you saw that and it impacted you, and you're the person who's the meeting organizer, you're hiring that person to come do it for your audience, and you want them to do that thing. Sing that song that we love. Sing Golden.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the one I love.
Right.
That's what you want to hear.
Yes.
So there's this.
Yeah.
Yes. And
it's a tricky place.
I love it.
This is just
we follow
improv
rules.
Yes. Yes. And I do think it's so critical for presenters, speakers, trainers, leaders, anyone to be authentic in the vulnerability that they're demonstrating. Does that make sense?
I think it goes to your 70% thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Like you've got the plan, but you got to be like, who's in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You got to be able to read that and pull that in. And yep, I'm gonna tell the story about the time when.
Right.
I'm gonna tell it to these people in this moment, informed by all the experiences that have gotten me here to this moment.
Yes. I'd love to allow some time and space for you to tell our listeners a little bit about the podcast you recently launched and maybe just give our listeners a flavor of what that's all about and how it fits into your career journey pivot that you're experiencing in real time right now.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. as I prepared to be a guest on your podcast today, I haven't been a guest for a couple of months since I just recently launched my own as a host.
Mhm.
And I found myself being nervous again. I'm like, oh, right, this is why they get nervous. So I'm happy to be in this moment to remember what it's like. The pressure's on,
Right.
And like from your perspective, you're like, don't feel nervous. It's fine. But and I say that all the time to my guests, but it's cute.
Mhm.
Anyway, so back in, I've had the idea of having a podcast for a long time, but I've just never really been that excited about doing it because I do love being a guest.
Right.
And, the idea of being a host was just like, meh. But a lot of people would ask me, why aren't you doing it? When are you going to do it? And one day back in a couple of months ago, about whenever May was.
Yes.
I don't know what month it is.
7 months ago.
I was driving to a conference because the plane got canceled, and it was like this 7-hour drive. And I'm like, I have an idea. I know what I want to do for my podcast. And I had the whole thing. I already have a newsletter called the Spark Connect, and it's Kassy with a K Connect. Spark Connect, sparking moments.
Yes.
And the newsletter was up and running, and I was very much enjoying it. And then the podcast idea came to me. I've had in my career, there's like 2 important questions that came up. One, we are seeking the humanity in this AI-driven world.
Right.
And I really believe in that our creative and artistic expression is where our humanity resides in one of the biggest ways. And so how can we highlight the creativity and the artistic moments and people in our lives as AI continues to drive forward? And then secondly, in my career coming up in corporate America, I was a theater person who got a job as a trainer, and then I was a very good trainer because I'm a theater person. And people would always say to me, every job I've ever had, can you train the other trainers to be like you?
Oh, right.
Sure, I love that. I love train the trainers. So here's what we're going to do. I got all these theater things. We're going to get in a circle and we're going to start. And no. Leave that for the weekends, Cass. That's too fun.
Yes.
But I'm like, but it's who I am.
Right.
And so there's been this for my whole career, this like downplaying of that part of so much of what I bring to the table.
Right.
And so I'm like, no, I'm tired of it. I'm going to do a podcast that's all about arts and facilitation. And I'm going to interview people who are artists who also work in learning and development as trainers, speakers, performers. And how is it that your art influences the work that you do to engage audiences and ultimately find our human connection, our humanity in this AI world that we live in today?
I love it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I love it. And how far are you into it? How many episodes have you
I just released episode 7.
Ooh,
and I have one a week. So I've been going live for 7 weeks at this point. But I have enough interviews where I already have all the way through May of next year ready to go once a week.
Love it.
Awesome.
And I have interviewed poets, dancers, a ton of actors, of course, magicians.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be
A landscape architect, an opera singer, like all these dudes, they're amazing. And it's a makeup artist, and lots of different ways too that people, a juggler, I have a juggler on there too. All these things. And I learn from each and every one of them. And what's happening, what's coming out of it is this, is a community. And people are saying, it's like they're feeling like they're becoming part of a tribe.
Yes.
And I'm finding that I'm like, it's a part of work that I didn't know I was going to love so much or realize I was going to be learning so much from.
Right.
And I really can't wait to keep growing it. I thought it was going to be like just a mini series of, arts and facilitation. And like, I have this idea that I might do sports and facilitation as well, because I know some athletes, like professional athletes who are speakers and so forth. And I probably will do that. But the thing is I have such a lineup already of all these artists that I'm like, I think this is the whole thing for now, at least.
Right. Just ride that through for sure.
Yeah.
So what advice, as we're wrapping up today, what advice would you give to our listeners who aren't juggling, magician, comedian, thespians?
That's exactly what I ask every single guest at the end. I'm like, teach us a thing. We're just regular people. We're not out of Dublin. I don't know how to do magic tricks.
Right.
Or do I? I might now. Can you teach us something, you know? And here's the thing. Every one of them is able to teach us something that comes from their artistry that we can use in our world. And, you know, like the advice that I would have, so for me, it's like performance is where the advice would come from, like theater and performance. And it's about just leaning into, you do need to practice. And if you walk through it, as awkward as it is, it will help you. And I'm not saying that you need to memorize, but we talked about it earlier, from memorization comes learning. And if you can think about it this way, like when you first heard Taylor Swift's new album, you did not know the words to the song.
True.
But how many times did you play it and then you knew it? And then you were singing it on your own and humming it, whether you wanted to or not, whether you're a Swiftie or not. It's playing the world right now.
Right.
But you didn't know it at first, but you do now, probably, for better or for worse. That's the same thing. So just allow yourself to repeat it a million different times, and then you'll find that you release it, and you'll find yourself just naturally saying it in your own way and in your own words.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a great tip for sure. Well, Kassy, it's hard to believe the time has flown by.
I know.
It's been such a great conversation. So thank you, first of all, for your time today and for sharing so many great tips with our audience. We're so grateful that you were willing to do this and to join us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely lovely. I'm also looking at the clock going, didn't we just start like 5 minutes?
Right? How did we get here? Yes. So hard to believe, wrapping up episode 20 of the Aha Moment. We are coming to the end of season 1, which is sort of crazy.
It is.
We have one more episode left this season, and seemingly appropriately, it's going to be dropping on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
And
I'm sure everyone's going to be waiting like that's what they're doing.
Bated breath, no doubt.
For sure.
But we're going to be doing a countdown of our favorite episodes from the season and sharing lots of aha moments throughout our very first season doing this. So again, you can find us on our website, decisionassociates.net. We are also on LinkedIn and Facebook as Decision Associates. And thank you, as always, to our listeners for joining us for another episode of the Aha Moment.
Yes, that's a wrap. Thank you.